Tape script 6.17.1. Once upon a time, there was a sweet little girl. Everyone who saw her liked her, but most of all her grandmother, who did not know what to give the child next. Once she made her a hood of red velvet. The little girl loved the hood so much that she had worn nothing else since receiving it. Since that time, people had called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, having heard that her grandmother had taken ill, Little Red Riding Hood's mother called to her, "Come, Little Red Riding Hood, here is a piece of cake and a small pot of butter. Take them to your grandmother. She is sick and weak, and they will do her well. Mind your manners and give her my greetings. Behave yourself on the way, and do not leave the path, or you might fall down and break the pot, and then there will be nothing for your sick grandmother." Little Red Riding Hood promised she would obey what her mother had told her and set off on her journey. But Granny lived out in a forest, half an hour's walk from the village. While Little Red Riding Hood was walking in the forest, she met a wolf. But she did not know what a wicked animal he was, and was not afraid of him. "Good day to you, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf. "Thank you, wolf," she said. "Where are you going so early, Little Red Riding Hood?" he asked her. "To my grandmother's house," she replied. He asked her what she was carrying in her basket. To this she replied, "Grandmother is sick and weak, and I am taking her some cake and butter. We baked yesterday, and they should give her strength." Then the wolf asked, "Little Red Riding Hood, just where does your grandmother live?" "Her house is a good quarter-hour from here in the forest, under the 3 large trees. There's a row of bushes there." "You must know the place," said Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought to himself, "This nice young girl is a delicious mouthful. She will taste better than the old woman. But I must trick her cleverly, so that I can catch both." He walked a while by Little Red Riding Hood's side. Then he said, "Little Red Riding Hood, haven't you seen the beautiful flowers that are blossoming in the forest? Why don't you go and take a look? And I don't believe you can hear how beautifully the birds are singing. You are walking along as though you were on your way to school in the village. It is very beautiful in the forest." Little Red Riding Hood opened her eyes and could see the sunlight was coming through the trees and how the ground was covered with beautiful flowers. She thought, "If I take a bouquet to grandmother, she will be very pleased. Anyway, it is still early, and I'll be home on time." And she ran off into the forest looking for flowers. When she had picked one, she thought that she could see a more beautiful flower a little way off. Then she would run for that one. All the while she was going further and further into the forest. But the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house and knocked on the door. "Who's there?" End of tape script 6.17.1. Tape script 6.17.2.
A. The little girl loved the hood so much that she had worn nothing else since receiving it. B. One day, having heard that her grandmother had taken ill, Little Red Riding Hood's mother called to her. C. Little Red Riding Hood promised she would obey what her mother had told her and set off on her journey. D. While Little Red Riding Hood was walking in the forest, she met a wolf. E. He asked her what she was carrying in her basket. F. He walked a while by Little Red Riding Hood's side. G. Little Red Riding Hood opened her eyes and could see the sunlight was coming through the trees and how the ground was covered with beautiful flowers.
End of tape script 6.17.2. Tape script 6.17.3. "It's Little Red Riding Hood. I'm bringing you some cake and butter. Please open the door for me," said the wolf. Just press the latch, Grandmother replied. I'm too weak to get out of bed. The wolf pressed the latch and the door opened. He walked inside and it immediately ate her up, for it had been more than 3 days since he had eaten. He then shut the door and put on Grandmother's clothes, pulling her cap down over his face. After that, he got into her bed, closed the curtains, and waited for Little Red Riding Hood to arrive. While the wolf was eating Grandmother, Little Red Riding Hood was running after flowers. When she had gathered so many that she wasn't able to carry any more, she continued on her journey to Grandmother's house. When she arrived, she knocked on the door. In his best grandmother's voice, the wolf called weakly, "Who's there?" "It's your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood. I have brought you some cake and butter for Mother," she said. To this the wolf had weakly responded, "Just press the latch. I am too weak to get out of bed." As she was walking through the parlor, Little Red Riding Hood felt afraid and thought to herself, "Oh my gosh, how strange I feel today. However, at other times I am so happy to be with my grandmother." Then she had gone over to her grandmother's bed and opened the curtains. Grandmother was lying there with her cap covering her face and looking very strange. "Oh, Grandmother, what big ears you have," she said. "All the better to hear you with," replied the wolf. "Oh, Grandmother, what big eyes you have," she said next. "All the better to see you with, my dear," answered the wolf. "Oh, Grandmother, what big hands and arms you have," Little Red Riding Hood said next. "All the better to hug you with, my precious child," lied the wolf. End of tape script 6.17.3. Tape script 6.17.4. Finally, Little Red Riding Hood had said to her grandmother, "Oh, Grandmother, what a large mouth you have. All the better to eat you with." Next, he jumped out of bed on top of Little Red Riding Hood and ate her up. As soon as he had finished this tasty bite, he climbed back into bed, fell asleep, and in minutes was snoring very loudly. A hunter was passing by. He thought it was strange that an old woman was snoring so loudly, so he took a look. He stepped inside the grandmother's house, and in the bed there lay the wolf that he had been hunting for such a long time. "He has eaten the grandmother, but maybe she can still be saved. I won't shoot him," thought the hunter. Instead, he took a knife and cut the wolf's belly open. He had cut only a few slices when he saw the red hood shining through. He cut a little more, and the girl jumped out and cried, "Oh, I was so frightened. It was so dark inside the wolf's body." And then the grandmother came out alive also. Then Little Red Riding Hood grabbed some large heavy stones. They filled the wolf's body with them. When he woke up and tried to run away, the stones were so heavy that he fell down and died. After that, the three of them were happy. The hunter took the wolf's pelt. The grandmother ate the cake that Little Red Riding Hood had brought with butter spread on the top. And Little Red Riding Hood thought to herself, "As long as I live, I will never leave the path and run off into the forest by myself if my mother tells me not to." End of tape script 6.17.4.